You just got back from Iowa. We're talking a lot about trade. What did you hear from folks in Iowa about how the president's trade policies are impacting them?
Yeah, right now, farmers get that China is a problem for the United States, that they cheat, they manipulate currency, they've dumped steel, but they're also starting to feel that the pressure of the tariffs that have been retaliated against them, particularly on soybeans and on pork. They're willing to give the president a little bit of leeway. I got to be honest, I've heard that. Mm-hmm. However, a lot of them have told me they want to know what the strategy is and why aren't we working more with our allies? Because a lot of our allies are victims as well. And if we work with them, we're much stronger taking on China. If we're just taking on China one-on-one, not clear, if that's going to achieve anything, for the American farmer.
What do you think the strategy should be?
Work with our allies. I mean, we have, allies, from the Brits, to the Aussies, across the world, big trading countries who also have issues with China. We should, put pressure on China that way. But just going one-on-one like this, it seems that the president's being a little childish, doesn't seem to have an end game in mind. And these farmers, they say it, this is kind of the mantra there, they want trade, not aid. And they don't want, some sort of handout as a short-term fix.
I can't believe we're already talking about the 2020 cycle so far ahead of the midterms. But look, you were just in Iowa. You were born in Iowa. A lot of people saying, you've said this, you're considering a run for president. When do you make that decision?
Yeah, and I'm counting on Iowa to help us change Congress, with Abby Finkenauer winning against Rod Blum in the eastern part of the state, Cindy Axne winning in the Des Moines area, and J.D.
And you're laying the groundwork and proteges in Iowa for the head of the caucus.
That's right. I'm going to do all I can to help us win the midterms, help these candidates, particularly mentor the 40s who are under 40. We have 40 candidates under the age of 40, and I'm going to make a decision right after the midterms. I do believe, though, Kevin, our country, the best thing for us is a page forward, new energy, new ideas, and new leadership.
You're the youngest member of the Democratic House leadership team. A lot of folks, and this has become a midterm question, if you support Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, if there is a blue wave, whether or not she should be Speaker. You say she should be.
I do, and I also support bringing in new voices to the leadership table. I'm so inspired by all of these veterans, small business owners, women who have stepped up across the country. And if this class is as big as I hope it is, it could be like the 1974 Watergate babies, people who were inspired to run, by reform-minded principles, and they could come in and, have a seat at the table.
You mentioned Watergate. That also would ask a general follow-up question, impeachment. Should Democrats take control of the House of Representatives? Do you think impeachment should be on the table?
We should lead with the issues that voters care about. And I heard this in Iowa, which is protecting their health care, protecting their paychecks. They're seeing wages are in decline as tax cuts go to the wealthiest, and protecting our democracy from corruption. We should lead with those issues, but we shouldn't look the other way if the president has conducted himself in a way that is impeachable.
Do you think he has?
I think he's committed obstruction of justice in plain sight, but I think to go that route, we need to conduct the investigations that Republicans have been unwilling to do and put forward an impenetrable case to the American people. We don't have the subpoena power right now to do that. I think if you do find, that evidence, you want it to be presented in a bipartisan way, because, that is the harshest remedy. It's not great for the country. And right now, I think we just want to impeach the Republican ideas at the ballot box this midterm.
FBI's Peter Strzok fired.
Yeah, I would have fired him too.
You would?
He should, he has rights, as an employee, and, those should be exhausted. But I also believe, as a brother of police officers and a former prosecutor, with the stakes this high, a presidential candidate being investigated, you can't talk that way. Even if it didn't affect the investigation, and the GAO report, the Inspector General report said it didn't, I still think it has to be clear that you can't do that. All of that being said, Kevin, the Mueller investigation has still obtained 5 guilty pleas, nearly 24 indictments, and a verdict that's probably coming soon in the Manafort case. So that's, regardless of what Peter Strzok did, that has occurred.
But as a member of the House Intelligence Committee, there's so much noise just within the last 72 hours. Now Omarosa Manigault-Newman, a former advisor to the president, coming out saying she's got these recordings. Does that worry you at all, that someone's recording the chief of staff inside of the Situation Room?
It really worries me. And the fact that we're talking about Omarosa just shows the judgment that this president has exercised. This is the White House, and you see members of Congress conducting insider trading deals on the White House lawn at a picnic. You see Omarosa recording in the Situation Room. And you see the president's past staff secretary had access to classified information and was a domestic abuser. And so, I think the best way to put pressure on the White House to conduct itself the way we need it to is to win the People's House and win Congress this November.
But should the Intelligence Committee look into how she was able to do these recordings? Should she testify before Congress?
We should do all we can to protect our national security secrets. We should at least look at how she got a cell phone or a recording device in the Situation Room. We should look at what the president said in Helsinki to Vladimir Putin and subpoena the translator. I think this president just continues to jeopardize our national security with the loose ways that he runs this White House.
And I don't mean to hammer down this point, but I mean, I think a lot of folks my perception of this was that if you go into the Situation Room of the White House, you wouldn't be recorded. And I guess what I'm trying to figure out is that legal? Are there security protocols that were breached? And should she have to testify to that? And are you open to that?
Well, first, Omarosa is a situation, but I don't know why
That's
she
the
was
Jersey Shore.
Yeah, why she was going into the Situation Room. That makes me wonder. Was General Kelly, seeking to put her in that room so that nobody around could hear and believing that she wouldn't record? So that I'm concerned about his judgment to do that. But yes, to your question, I go into secure facilities every day when I'm on Capitol Hill, and you're supposed to leave your cell phones outside. It's based on trust, though. There's no pat down. So she violated that trust.
I've covered his campaign, candidate Trump's campaign, virtually since the beginning now in his second year of office. And these issues are so divisive. A recent CBS News poll says that 70% of Republicans view the Russia investigation as a quote-unquote witch hunt. Why do so many Republicans believe that?
Well, the president keeps repeating that, and they've seen no Republicans in Congress stand up and say this is not about one individual, one campaign. It's about a country that attacked the idea of America. I used to think, Kevin, that they attacked us and helped Trump because they wanted something transactionally. I've come to realize that they know they're not going to get anything transactionally from Donald Trump. He couldn't organize a 2-car funeral. They attacked us because they want to undermine the idea that if you work hard, you can become anything. They don't want that to come to Russia. And so the best way to keep that from coming to Russia is to attack us here and turn us against ourselves. And they've got that with Donald Trump. And
I take it you don't think that we're any better protected. There was that bipartisan piece of legislation that passed to better protect systems ahead of the midterms. But do you, Congressman, think that we're any better off in the midterms? And that's got to be infuriating.
We're not better off. We're being attacked right now by the Russians. I wrote legislation to have an independent commission. It's a bipartisan piece of legislation. It's exactly what we did after September 11th. I thought we could use unity as an antidote, but only 2 Republicans have signed on to that. And so if we can't unite and just say we're not going to allow our adversaries to attack us, they're going to see green lights all the way.